Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming along. I am very nervous. I have wanted to interview this woman for so long. I have been such a fan. I have seen numerous interviews over and over, actually, the same one, to be honest, before I started reading the book of Jacquelyn Sheppard. And I'm so honored that she said yes. I had wanted to have a chat with her just privately. And then I thought, I'm just going to get in touch with her, a complete stranger from the other side of the world, and say, hey, can I interview you? And she was amazing. She just said, yep, what time? So, and then she's here. So I'm really grateful that she's here. She's got so much information to share. So Jacquelyn, can I call you Jackie? Call you Jackie.
Absolutely.
Great. So Jackie is a counselor, educator, mother and grandmother. She's the founder of a private high school and a former journalist. So for over 50 years, Jackie's extensive experience in counseling, research, and teaching concerning the body and brain have transformed many lives. Now, this little yellow pill that this particular interview is centered around has absolutely changed my life, the lives of our children, and we just set out to change the lives of so many more people with our stories. So I am going to hand it over to you, Jackie, and you can tell us a little bit about what you hear, what you're doing, and what you've been up to. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. It's just an honor to be with you tonight. I was in New Zealand in 2003, and my husband and I were there for 3 months, and we said again and again, had we been in our 20s and visited New Zealand, we probably would have immigrated. Your country's so beautiful. But the people of Australia and the people of New Zealand are more beautiful than their countries. I loved the spirit of both nations, and we're looking forward to coming back. So we want to make it work. G and I have lots of plans ahead. I have been studying this probably longer than most of you have been alive. In the late 60s, I began researching and connecting nutrition to behavior. There wasn't an internet, there wasn't any information out there at the time, other here and there, a book I could lay my hands on. But I just knew, watching my students in my classroom, I was teaching high school English at the time, I just knew that what they ate had a lot to do with their behavior. We had one particular class right after lunch, and depending on what they served in the cafeteria, the kids would be asleep or swinging from the chandelier. So I was trying at that time to figure out how could I get a healthier brain. So I was studying a lot on vitamins and minerals and amino acids. And then we moved to Atlanta, and I met a research pediatrician who asked me one day what I thought about the new labels we were getting, ADD, ADHD, and autism. He said, what do you think about these, Ms. Sheppard? You're a teacher, what do you think? And he said, do you think we have more of those students, or do we have better diagnostic tools? And I said, Dr. Murray, we have more of them. And he said, what do you think it is? And I said, there's something wrong in their body that's affecting their mind. I just don't know what it is. And he said, that's what I think too. Will you help me? And I said, what can I do? And at that time, I was staying at home with the kids, writing, doing some magazine and newspaper writing, but I was also tutoring 60 elementary school students in reading. There was elementary school close to us, and they had actually found out that I could teach kids to read. So they were saying, these kids have to have extra help. Will you help us? The ones that I could not help through educational therapies, I took to Dr. Murray. And then the parents, of course, would go with me. And Dr. Murray, back in the early 80s, would do metabolic profiles on them. He would check their vitamin and mineral deficiencies. He would check amino acids. Way back then, we were checking gut function. And then when these results came back, we didn't have the privacy laws then, but the parents didn't care if I talked to him. We would discuss what can we do for these students. Interestingly, almost all of them were deficient in zinc. Now, no one, whether they live in America, New Zealand, or Australia, should be deficient in zinc. You should get plenty. But if you can't absorb zinc, you're not getting enough. And now we know since 2020 that if you are not getting enough quercetin, your zinc may not be efficient. Quercetin is like the truck that carries the zinc into the cells and then helps it to be more efficient. So they were deficient in zinc. So he would be like, okay, Ms. Sheppard, have their parents give them 40 milligrams of zinc and tell me what happens. Well, several things. One, they would quit picking at their skin. They would quit fidgeting with their fingers. And they could pay attention better. So I would go back to telling. So he would supplement the zinc for quite a while, and then we had to retest. So when he would retest, quite often their zinc would be normal, but their copper would have dropped too low. So then he'd have to try to get the copper because the body has to have a certain ratio. Now, if we were eating the foods from the Garden of Eden, they would all be nutritionally balanced. The soil would contain the minerals that the soil needs that would feed into the roots of the plant to provide the vitamins that the body needs. It would be in perfect balance. Wherever we lived in the world, that the plants that grew would be nutritionally what our body needed. But we're not eating those fruits and vegetables anymore. If you've read my book, you probably noted that in the United States, it now takes 8 oranges to equal 1 orange from 1950. Our soil is depleted. As early as 1934, the U.S. Department of Agriculture was saying that the soil could no longer provide the minerals the plants needed for us to eat. So that was the advent of commercial fertilizers in our country. Now, our body's not really designed for anything that is systemic in a plant that's not supposed to be in the plant to go into our body. And as years passed, they added pesticides. Oh, wow, it kills all sorts of things on the plants, but we know now those pesticides are systemic in the plant. What does that mean? It goes in the root and it stays in the plant. Also, the insecticides, the pesticides, and the herbicides. In America, we're having some legal battles over Roundup, a glyphosate, which is systemic in the plant. You eat the plant, you're eating Roundup. You're eating insecticides, you're eating pesticides. So the other thing that we've learned in these last, however many years ago 1980 was that whatever we're eating stays in our cells. And there's some ways to get rid of it. And we'll talk about that later, especially as it relates to learning and behavior. But we know now that if all of this is in the baby food, if the insecticides, the pesticides, the herbicides are systemic in the plants, it goes into the baby food, it's going right into the baby. It's also going into the mom's breast milk. It's also going into formulas that are plant-based, of course. So you're asking, what about organic? Organic is much better because they're not supposed to use any of these things, but even that, sometimes we find out that some company that said they were organic actually were not. So what happens to the developing child? When these things go into the body, whether it's from breast milk, whether it's in the womb, or whether it is in the baby food, it begins to affect the organ's efficiency, and it begins to affect brain development. By the time a child is 2, and some of you may say, yep, that's when my child was diagnosed, parents will begin to notice something. So they will talk to their pediatrician. And if there's a diagnosis, sometimes there's words that people are told that are untrue. And these are the words, there's nothing you can do. This is genetic. Now, I'm wearing a t-shirt. You can't see it right now, but I'm wearing a t-shirt saying, number one, nothing is impossible. Secondly, my t-shirt says that, oh, let me see if I can put it, because I told Julie I was going to try to be compliant. The genetic part of it is that in families that do not make enough of the enzyme glutathione, that's G as in George, L, A, T as in Tom, H as in Harry, I, O, N, E. Sorry, I lost my glutathione. I lost my way through that. So if you're from a family, and a lot of us of Northern Europeans are deficient in this, but it doesn't matter where you're from. If you're Mediterranean, Mideastern, it doesn't matter if you're an islander. We tend to have had a shift in our bodies around the world to making less glutathione than our bodies need. You're supposed to get ample glutathione from your fruits and vegetables. That's where the problem is. Because our fruits and vegetables are not nutritionally dense enough, they cannot supply the raw materials for our body to make adequate glutathione. So some of you are probably thinking, plants and vegetables, I wish I could get my child to eat something besides chicken nuggets. And you wonder sometimes, why do they eat certain foods? Well, a lot of that has to do with MSG, because it's highly addicted to the brain, and they can become addicted to it very easily. So if we cannot make enough glutathione, and we cannot get our bodies to make enough genetically or from the fruits and vegetables, we have to look at other options. Now, I had been studying free radicals with learning and behavior problems since the 80s. When I was at Dr. Murray's office one day, he said, Mrs. Sheppard, they've discovered the cause of disease. He was so excited to tell me this. And I said, how do you have one cause for disease? And he said, it has to do with abnormal molecules. And he drew a little molecule, put some little spinning electrons on it. He was using a prescription pad. And he said, if these become imbalanced, too many or too few, this molecule becomes unstable. And this is the important thing. It will not obey its original design. Now, your body, when there's something unstable, your immune system is supposed to come in and take it out. And so having understood, okay, these abnormal cells, what all do they affect? Well, every disease that they tested, and I think we now have over 300 physical, mental, emotional, addictive disorders, they found they had one thing in common: high free radicals. Some of you know in 1969, there was a discovery by Dr. Joe McCord that we make an enzyme, superoxide dismutase, that its job in the body is to go looking for these free radicals. Having found free radicals, the job of this enzyme is to lend an electron to stabilize the molecule, or take an electron to stabilize it. So that molecule then would be corrected. It would start doing its original design in the body again. So with this amazing enzyme discovery in 1969, the search was on, how do we create a medicine? How do we create something? In 1985, the accumulation of free radicals in the body that were greater than the body could handle scientists began referring to that as oxidative stress. So if you have high oxidative stress, what do you need? Well, that's where the word antioxidant came from. High oxidative stress, we need something that's anti-oxidative stress. And there's so many products out there. Some of you've probably taken squished up vegetables in a pill or fruits in a pill. You probably had all sorts of exotic drinks. And these work in a test tube. You can put a molecule of almost any antioxidant. You can put blueberries in a test tube. They will eliminate one-on-one. One molecule will eliminate one free radical. But the problem is every day when you get up, you're going to have over 30 septillion free radicals. Now, the interesting thing about learning and behavior is this. I suppose it was around 1985 that they started testing children with learning and behavior problems to find out how did their free radicals compare with children who did not have learning and behavior. And you probably have already figured out what they found. They found that these children and these adults had higher free radicals. They found that children with ADD, ADHD, autism, or any childhood disease had high amounts of oxidative stress, and they had low production of the body's own antioxidant enzymes, such as superoxide dismutase, glutathione, and catalase. You can, I'm going to show you a site in a few minutes where you can do your own research. Check me out. So if we had these children with these high oxidative stress levels, and we had low production of the body's own antioxidants that are designed to correct that, then one would think that the research would have gone in that direction. Some of it did. Glutathione was studied not just for these disorders, but for neurodegenerative disorders such as MS, such as Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. All of these, they were studied because they could see the profiles. You could put the profile of one of these kids up and a profile of someone maybe with dementia, and it might look a lot alike. Yes, there were vitamin and mineral deficiencies, but the really big, what we call a smoking gun, was the high free radicals, low production of antioxidant enzymes. So glutathione seems so promising that laboratories made glutathione, oral glutathione, injections of glutathione, and IVs of glutathione for people. The problem that occurred was, even though it worked, you couldn't sustain it. So if you gave someone an IV of glutathione, it might work for a few days, but it was never going to be something that was going to be over the counter. It certainly was not going to be a typical prescription because it didn't last. I had a lady in Kansas City who had to declare bankruptcy because she maxed out her credit card buying glutathione lotion for her autistic child. And I said, so what would happen? And she said, I could put that lotion on him and he might be calm for 20 or 30 minutes. And I realized how desperate that young mother was. So glutathione was always promising, but they couldn't get it to sustain in the body because they were putting it in the body. And remember, I told you that works on a one-to-one. So there was no way to actually get the body to make more glutathione, but there's been a lot of research on two things. Selenium, you've probably heard that, and NAC, long word. These are precursors. You put them in the body, however you want to get them in the body, and you're going to get an increase in glutathione. You may get an increase of 10%. You may be able to utilize 6%. So you got to be popping those pills all the time to keep it up. And the other thing is you can hardly get any pill down these kids. So we just hit a dead-end street. Even though some promising research on glutathione was out there, how were you going to get the body to cooperate? Dr. Martha Herbert in 2011 on an iChat, you can look her up and watch her. She is probably our most outstanding scientist and doctor in America in the field of ADD, ADHD, and autism. She's from Harvard. And she said in 2011, I'm now convinced that low production of glutathione is the link to ADD, ADHD, and autism. She said, in fact, I'm so convinced I'm going to get a glutathione t-shirt. And, by the time she said it, I was already convinced. I'm not a proper scientist, I'm a researcher. And so I had been doing my own research, and I'd also had some experience with an activator that allows your body, it activates your body to make more of your own glutathione. And as I was watching this with people, I had a lot of hope that we would be able to get the body to make more of its own glutathione. So with that in mind, if the ultimate link here is low production of antioxidants and high oxidative stress, is there any scientific proof? I'm going to show you what I just brought up, 3 or 4 things for you to look at tonight. But the other thing is, what about if it did happen? Is there a genetic link? There is a strong genetic link to not making enough glutathione, strong genetic link to not producing enough superoxide dismutase, a strong genetic link to not making enough catalase. So from those families, we are going to see more of all sorts of disorders. The other thing is this. There are certain things that can enter a child's body that will affect their production, their natural production of amino acid called taurine. And if that is affected, and I'm going to let you do your own research on that, if that is affected, quite often the brain will be deficient in taurine, and the gut will be deficient in taurine. It affects these this system in the body, this cycle, make taurine, use taurine. That, so far as we can tell, is seriously affected. It may even be permanently affected in some children. But one of the most powerful things about glutathione, Taurine, taurine. One of the other things that is so important with making enough glutathione is the cells in your body have these little receptors. Some of you may have seen me teach this before. Your nutrients come along, you eat amino acids, you digest your food, you get your little protein subscription factors, everything's bouncing around. And then this little cell, something comes by and it goes, ooh, that's mine. And so it allows it in because that little nutrient had a molecular shape that would fit in it. Now, interestingly enough, marijuana will go into almost every cell, all receptors in the body, as will nicotine. So it's real easy for these little cells. It comes along and they're like, oops, that's mine, but it cannot use it to make its job. So if you have ingested heavy metals, such as mercury, such as lead, such as aluminum, or aluminium, is that right? Whatever. If you have ingested these, or your sweet little child has, it has to sit right here. It cannot go into the cell, but this little cell thought it could. It was a counterfeit. So it's just sitting there blocking. So it can't do its job. So what if you're making enough glutathione if you're a baby, and let's say that somehow mercury did get into your body, the glutathione comes and begins to clean out that cell, handing that mercury over to catalase, which is going to get it out of the body. But what about that little child who is from a genetic predisposition to not making enough glutathione? That child can't get it out of the cells, cannot get it out of those receptors. So what happens is this begins in the brain to affect a neurotransmitter called glutamate, which is your most important neurotransmitter. If your glutamate is not stable, nor will your serotonin be, which of course is linked most often in our minds to depression, nor will your dopamine be. Dopamine is linked scientifically to ADD and especially to ADHD and to autism. So everything can be messed up by these blocked receptors and by an inability to make enough glutathione. But let's look at some science, because I don't want you to think that I'm the only one thinking this. Now, we're going to try. I have a real problem with my Zoom behaving. So we're going to try to share this screen. And Julie, what did you tell me that you're seeing? Read me the one you're seeing.
I am reading PubMed, Oxidative Stress, ADD, ADHD.
Okay, and that's not the one I want you to see right now. So I'm going to see if I can move it aside. Now, what are you seeing?
No change, the same one.
You would have to unshare and then reshare.
Unshare and reshare. All right, let's see if we can do that. Now I can't even find myself. I'm going to stop sharing. There I am. Okay, let me try again, because this is what, Julie, maybe you can eventually help me with this, because this is exactly the problem I have been having. I see one thing and my viewers see something else. What are you seeing now, Julie?
Oxidative stress, ASD.
Okay, perfect. Now you'll notice that I've gone to pubmed.gov. Now, this is our National Medical Library, but we have so many scientists from New Zealand, from Australia, from all over the world. This has become the top international trusted site because it has to have peer reviews. So, for example, maybe a university here in America does a study, maybe a university in another country repeats that study, and yet another research hospital, for example, repeats the study. They have to get the same results before it can be submitted to this publishing site. So it is where researchers, you can ask your own doctor and he'll say, yeah, that's the one we use. So this is pretty straightforward. Oxidative stress and autism spectrum disorder. ADD, ADHD, and autism are now being linked under ASD. So if you scan down here, there's a lot you can read. You don't have to do it right now. But if you look at the last few sentences, early assessment and treatment of oxidative antioxidant status may result in a better prognosis, as it could decrease the oxidative stress in the brain before it can induce more irreversible brain damage. I'm not so sure that brain damage is irreversible, because we're learning so much about the plasticity of the brain. So if you're looking for science, go there, put in the word oxidative stress -ASD. You see that we have 309 articles. This one I'm going to try to pull up for you all. I don't know that it's going to pull up, is something that most of you are already so familiar with. You're already working with the gut-brain connection. This one is the gut microbiota and oxidative stress in ASD. This is a fascinating one. because their gut flora, their microbiome is different from other children. Can we change that? Yes, we can change it. Now let's see, what else have we got here? I'm going to try to do this a little bit to see. Okay, now this one I hope is going to come up. Julie, what are you seeing now?
Yeah, back to the first one, oxidative stress, ADD, ADHD.
So
Nope.
Interesting. Let me try again. I don't know why it's doing this. Let's try this one and hope it comes up, because we want to have lots of times for questions. What are you seeing, Julie?
That one is ASD glutathione.
Oh, perfect. That's what I wanted. You'll see we have 110 results on the role of glutathione in ASD. You can just scan through here. Sulforaphane, some of you have heard of that. That's broccoli sprouts. Imagine trying to get enough broccoli sprouts down these children. This is the microbiome again. Here's oxidative stress, role of oxidative stress and antioxidants in autism. This is just exactly what I've been telling you. So let's see what else we have here. Let me try again. Let's see what you're seeing, Julie. What are you seeing?
Back to oxidative stress, ASD.
Okay. No. Look down at this article. What do you say? What do you see?
Autism Spectrum Disorders and perinatal complications.
Right. Is oxidative stress the connection? This is very important. I was with a little mother last week in Georgia, and she was saying, did I do something to cause this? She'd painted the inside of their house while she was pregnant, and she was like, did I cause this? We don't know the answers to that. I will have a chapter in the book I'm working on what we consider causes, but we do know if there is high oxidative stress in the mother's womb, it is going to affect that baby. Oxidative stress comes from air pollution, herbicides, pesticides, of course, drugs and alcohol, but it also can come from emotional stress. So we don't know. And as a person ages, because you decline 10% every decade in your production of your own antioxidant enzymes, the older mothers are not making the same amount of antioxidant enzymes as a teenager or a 20-year-old. So you can go back and look at some of these yourself. I think I have one more to share, and then we're going to talk about some other things. Let's see if I can make this one work. Okay, Julie, what are you seeing?
Not much.
All right, let me try again.
Tiny part of a screen.
Sorry, let's see. Let's try it now. What are you seeing?
Lipid perioxidation markers.
Okay, thank you so much for helping me. Now, because we don't just deal with children with ADD, ADHD, and autism. We have an adult population. We have a generation that has serious attention deficit. So what about them? The liquid peroxidation markers are the same thing that we call T-bars. You're looking for rancid fats in the blood and in the body. This is oxidative stress. And when they check adults, then they're going to see that they have higher oxidative stress. Now I have one more I'm going to do my best to share with you because it's an exciting one. Let's see if I can pull it over because you may be seeing my desktop. What are you seeing now, Julie?
Dietary Phytochemicals.
Okay, now what we're going to be talking about a little bit later are these dietary phytochemicals and what can they do? Is there any evidence that this can change? When you read this article and you begin to get down to here where it says that it begins to talk about a strong connection of gut-brain crosstalk occurs for all sorts of reasons. We're not going to get in heavy into the science here. It sums up with abnormal gut flora and ASD. This sentence, this worsens behavioral, neurochemical, mitochondrial dysfunction occurring in ASD. These are responsible for the generation of free radicals that cause immune system dysfunction. This leads, you'll see, to cytokines. You've been hearing that with COVID, and chemokines. So go on down and you're going to find an important word here. These compounds provide neuroprotection by modulating signaling pathways such as NRF2 and also the sirtuin pathway. You can read this by yourself because I want you to look at the science. I don't want you to just think that this is an old lady saying these things. There is the science to prove it. Julie, are you seeing me now or what are you seeing?
Yes, I'm seeing you now.
Okay. So what does this mean? When you start connecting dots and you go, wait a minute, glutathione is a big part of this ASD jigsaw puzzle. Should we try to increase the body's production of glutathione? Should we try to increase the body's production of antioxidants? Should we try to activate the body's signaling molecules? The cells talk to cells. Should we try to increase where the damaged DNA is signaling undamaged? Should we try to get that signal to their survival genes so that survival genes can tell the other cells of the body, basically, get on your job, make more glutathione, make more superoxide dismutase, make more catalase and other antioxidants. So what would this do to genetic expression? Well, if you go to PubMed.gov, you can read a fascinating study where if you can activate that signaling pathway effectively enough, it's going to lower genes that are overexpressed. It's going to raise genes that are underexpressed, genes that we need. So that alone would give us a lot of hope for the future. As we move into some questions and answers, however, I want us to talk. I want you to ask questions about what else, omega-3s perhaps, or vitamin and mineral deficiency test. I want us to consider becoming more proactive in correction. What we're learning, even with people with Alzheimer's, is that the brain can grow new cells. It just takes a long time, and it takes the right raw materials. I spoke with a young lady, the young mother last week, and I said, why don't we try? Why don't we follow these things? What have we got to lose? So let's, Julie, let's go to questions and answers, and I'll do my best. Okay?
Okay, that'll be lovely. My goodness, that was amazing. I have taken so many notes. It's like I'm back in science class again. No, thank you so much. That was amazing. I've learned so much, and I can't wait to put it all together and start educating other people on this as well. For me, I think I was interested in what you'd said about the taurine, because we have actually an amazing GP who I'm going to send him this video because I know he's interested in the idea of nutrigenomics and how it can help as well. So with our son, he's living proof that what you're saying is true. He basically, I think maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks of him taking this NRF2 activator made such a massive difference to the amount of calm in him, his focus, and I think above all, and I say this a lot, my husband will attest to this, he's on this call as well at work. I think he's in the corner somewhere watching, but just that he's happier, you know, and for us that was everything. So part of the reason why I love being in this business and being able to share this information with other parents is that I can say to them, listen, what you're reading, it's not a gimmick, it's not some rubbish you're buying that's going to waste your money, and we've wasted our money on a lot of things. So we're walking living proof of it. So it's amazing, and it's so great to be able to share this information with a lot of other people. And glutathione is a buzzword at the moment, isn't it? I mean, with everything that's going on, and so many people talking about NAC and and that being the precursor is it's fascinating. So for me, that was great. But I did actually want to point out, and I wasn't going to say this, but your skin is amazing. How old did you tell us you were earlier?
Well, I'm 78. I will be 79 in February.
Oh my goodness.
And the skincare I use, you're all familiar with it. We call it True Science.
And it is True Science, because look at that. That's amazing.
Yeah, it works. I have to say that whether you're trying to correct the probiotics in your body or whether you're trying to improve your skin, the company that Julie's associated with, I don't know who all else is associated with, most of us looked at the science. We looked at the credentials of the company. I've never had my name associated with a business company before, but the science is there to prove it. So, yeah. And so I want you all to have the freedom to ask me any questions. We do have some limitations. I want you to know that none of what we do is designed to treat, mitigate, or cure any disease. We're simply trying to help you have a healthier body and a healthier mind. And if you love someone with an ASD disorder, you are desperate to help them.
Absolutely. And that's so wonderful. So Deb, if you can take the spotlights off, and we'll do a Q&A. Grania, you've got two. You can go first, but you can only have one.
I want to have two because one's personal and one's generic. So I'm going to have two.
All right, you can have two.
Do you like my eggshell? Do you like my little egg swinging chair? I love my egg swinging chair.
Yes, I want you to sit on your chair.
So the first one is with my son. So my son played professional soccer, and like at quite an elite level, and he's torn his ACL. So he's gone from coaching, training. He's trained like 3-4 nights a week, played sometimes once, twice at the weekend, mental endurance, ice buckets, purpose, coaching, to now being told he can't play for a year, to now no dopamine whatsoever, sitting in his room at uni. He's just come home really flat, really fed up. I want to ask what you would recommend. I've got him speaking to someone, but I've just had, thank you Kiwi people, a ton of Axio that's arrived. Should I give him some Axio? Should I get him some zinc, vitamin D? What would you recommend that I give him to try and brighten him up and try and fill that void that he was getting from exercise?
Is he already taking the Tri-Synergizer, G?
He tells his mammy that he takes NRF1 and 2, but I'm like, but you never ask me for them, and you have the never-ending 2 bottles that seem to last forever. So yeah. I don't know, but he promises me he is taking NRF1 and 2.
What about NAD? Are you all able to get NAD?
I don't really. I'm not the biggest lover of NAD.
You would know it if you could. Julie?
I've got NAD. I've got some NAD here that I can give him.
Yeah. Give him that with the Axio. Yes, you need to increase his vitamin D3. I'm recommending that everyone get their doctors to test their vitamin D3 if you can. I'm keeping mine up around 80 because the thing that we're seeing with so many COVID deaths is the low vitamin D3, interestingly enough, as well as low glutathione. G, I want you to tell him something. I want you to tell him that I tore my lateral and posterior meniscus.
Oh yeah, I know the meniscus.
About 3 years ago. And of course, at my age, they were recommending everything. I didn't have time for surgery. So I put them off for a few months. And when I went back and he put me through the test, he said, "Isn't this hurting?" And I said, "Not really. Scale of 1 to 10, what's your pain level?" "Probably a 2. So he leaves the room, he comes back with the MRIs, with the x-rays, and he said, "I just had to make sure that I was correct." He said, "There's no way that this, with looking at this, that you shouldn't be in excruciating pain." And I said, "Doc, I've already told you I take magic pills." So here I am at my age. Should I be getting that to repair by itself without surgery? I'm not going to answer that question. All I can say is I haven't had surgery. And every now and then I might feel a little bit twitch, but no. So just tell him that. Just say, look, if that old lady's knee, if her ligaments, if her tendons, and I think you recall I had a torn tendon 3 years ago.
Yes.
If it can improve that much, he needs to take the pills. So, okay.
And can I ask just about the operation? When he's having it, should they come off Protandim a week before the NRF1 and NRF2 before his ACL operation?
I think he can stay on the NRF1, especially he needs to take that at night though, G.
Okay.
Take him off of the NRF2. There is green tea in NRF2, our Protandim. So it's going to cause a healthy blood thinning, but before surgery,
they
take it off. And part of that is because who knows what they're going to give you in the hospital.
Great. So, and one last question, and it's really quick. Sure. With the world as it is, would you recommend, I've heard so many doctors from out there in the world saying, if you've had the COVID jab, you have depleted your glutathione and your mitochondria, you should be trying to increase it. If you haven't had the COVID jab, you should be increasing your glutathione and your mitochondria because to improve your system. Would you say that that is correct? That if you have or you haven't, this product should be out there. We should be telling everyone for them to give their bodies the best protection, whether they have or haven't had the jab, that they should be taking Protandim for the glutathione.
Well, I absolutely cannot link any of our products to prevention or cure of this virus.
Fair enough.
I can't link them. I will tell you that I've read a lot of the similar science reports concerning deficiencies. It makes sense to me anytime you can correct a deficiency. For example, we tell people with vision problems, eat more carrots because of vitamin A. In my mind, if you can improve a deficiency, why not?
Perfect. Thank you, Lovey.
Yes.
Great answer. Thank you very much. Emma, you got a question?
Emma, I'm looking at chat. Let's see what your question is.
Hi. My question is, I'm sorry, it's a noisy house here, so I'm trying to escape. 2 dogs and 3 cats that are just following me wherever I go. One's a puppy. I have a question. I've got my son. He's 23, nearly 24 now. Now, he's been diagnosed as bipolar. He's also got ADHD as well. I've had him on the little yellow pill not quite a month now, and he's seen absolutely zero difference. Although I think I have in his sleep patterns, because he's got a really bad sleep pattern. He has a tendency to stay up really, really late. and then get up really late during the day, which is a huge hindrance because they've got a daughter who's about to turn 1. They also live with me too. Should I be encouraging him to take the NRF1 as well?
How old did you tell me he is?
23.
I would stay with just the NRF2 and perhaps Axio if you can get your hands on it for 4 months. Now, there's a reason I'm saying this. He has to be on his own team. Emma, he has to become the captain of his own team for improvement.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
we can get him to take 1 pill, and if you have the Axio and he can drink an Axio in the day, after 120 days, he may be saying, Mom, where are those pills?
Well, he's actually thinking of joining as a distributor as well, but I haven't ordered Axio, but I will.
Because if you can link him making money to taking it, absolutely, because that's what I see with a lot of young people, old people too. They don't take the pill consistently. It does need to be with a meal that has fat in it. And if he's taking it in a handful of other stuff, it may be hindering the synergy.
Okay.
But after about that length of time, I certainly would use the NRF1 with him. Now, interestingly enough, with the younger people, when we add NRF1 in the morning, they feel energized and more focused all during the day. They're usually doing a lot of cell phones, computers, so forth. With older people, we tend to get sleepy, tired, and fatigued if we take the NRF1 in the morning. And that's because your body repairs while you're sleeping. So if you start taking it and you're like, man, I need a nap every day now, switch and take it at night, because all it's doing is it's saying, go to bed, I have work to do. Now, on getting him to change his days and nights, because that brain healing is going to occur at night, Emma.
So should I be encouraging him to take it before he goes to bed, the NRF2?
The NRF1, have him take it with dinner, right before bedtime. And then let's go ahead and add, if you can get your hands on it, 1 milligram of sublingual melatonin.
Okay.
Just the 1 milligram. They were giving children with autism like 15 milligrams, and these kids were still like this. So a doctor, in treating his own child, started thinking maybe this is wrong. Maybe going less is better than going high, because melatonin is a hormone your body produces. And so now the latest research is saying 1 milligram, but sublingual means it's going to dissolve in the mouth. You don't really want to digest melatonin. You can, it'll still work a bit, but it's more effective sublingual. Try that and just try to encourage him to learn everything he can about this disorder in order to help him make more money as a distributor. Just put it that way.
And about the Axio, when I get my hands on it, when should you have that?
Well, if he's taking the NRF2, I would say separate it by 3 to 4 hours, because there's a little green tea in it, and you don't want to put too much in the recipe for Protan, and we don't know how long it's going to sit in his gut. Now, when you all get NAD, and that'll be when your government says you can have it, because it's got to go through all the regulatory commissions. If you're able to put your hands on the Trisynergizer, those 3 pills taken together, NRF2, NRF1, and NAD, are 850 times more potent, the combination. So with that, I usually say you can drink Axio in a couple of hours or an hour. We don't have the science to prove that it works or it doesn't work. I was looking at the average vitamin D3. In America, they consider 34 is normal. If yours is 34, I want to encourage you to don't go by normal. get yours up high. Go ahead and get it up to, as I said, 70 or 80. Stuart, yours is 120. That is a little high, but I don't guess it'll hurt you. You can ask. If you can improve a deficiency, why not? Yeah. Then let's see. The LV probiotics in Australia, would that help children with autism? Is it Nira or Naira?
It's Nira.
Nira, beautiful name. So many of you have such beautiful names. I would say this. One, I cannot tell you that it's going to help children with autism. The hardest part of my job, and G, you'll probably agree, is knowing what I can say and what I can't say. But the science is there. You heard it tonight. If the microbiome, which is the gut, is not what it needs to be with these children, they don't have they cannot feed their brain, because these neurotransmitters are made in the gut, and you've got to have the proper probiotics and the proper prebiotics to actually make the serotonin, make the dopamine. So, I was telling people way before I was with this company to put their children on probiotics, put them on probiotics. The problem was I couldn't find any that were working. And now we know it's because when you're taking them, they're being destroyed by the digestive tract. The reason I love our product is because it has that little coating on it, which enables it to get to the small intestine before it releases its probiotics. Then if you've got the right prebiotics, if you've got the right fertile field, for example, there, those probiotics are going to colonize so that you have more good guys than bad guys. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, they're trying to get it up to 80. That's good. That's good. Any other questions? If you haven't, okay. Julie, you want to call on the people with their hands up?
Yeah, I think we've just got time for one more, and I'll leave it with you, Candace.
Awesome. Thank you. I just have to say what an honor it is to meet you today virtually. I would love to meet you in person one day. I was a pediatric physio. I'm a little emotional, sorry, all of a sudden. I was a pediatric physio for over 20 years in Canada before moving to Australia, working with special needs kids, working with kids with autism and ADHD, watching families struggle. And having this as a gift has been the most remarkable thing over the last year that I've seen, because it doesn't just impact the child, it impacts the family, it impacts the school, it impacts the whole community, and it impacts for life. It's amazing. So I just want to say thank you. I love your authenticity in how you share. I love the clarity with how you speak. It is absolutely brilliant and easy, and this will be a tool that I already have a list of people I'll be sending it to. Really, really, really amazing. Thank you, Julie, for inviting you on today. So I just have a couple of questions that I would just love to actually ask you, if that's okay. So one of them is, what is your best complement of products for kids? So like, I work with kids. I can't work as a physio over in Australia. I actually am I just consult. I just do, work with the company, and I just consult with families and help them on their health journey. It's all right, Kate. But one of the things that we come up with is, on the little bottle, it says not for kids. So I'm hoping that you might be able to help explain. So that's the first question. And then the second one is the best complement, Axio, Probio, we're talking little kids to bigger kids, and then being able to, also know what the minimum is. Like, what's the very minimum you would recommend for these kids to be taking? So yeah, thank you.
Okay, in our country, if you've not had a clinical trial with that particular thing with children 18 and younger, it has to be on the bottle, as well as it has to be on the bottle not for pregnant or lactating mothers unless physician. So I would say this, and you know, all of my grandchildren, except my little bitties, young ones, take this. Because they all had little bits of things going on in their bodies. And I didn't give it to them. Grandmother didn't say, take this. Their mothers did. And now they get their friends on it all the time, because especially their kids, they're like, you need to talk to my mother. You need to talk to my grandmother. So I hope that helps Candace to say that's a regulatory thing. Now, our company has to stand by it. Mm-hmm. And we do, but on the other hand, nobody's going to keep you from giving it to someone. The other thing is that what I recommend, now let me just give you a sneak peek at my book. I do recommend that you activate the signaling molecules in the body, such as the NRF1 pathway, which builds mitochondria as well as helps revitalize mitochondria. I also will recommend in my book that you activate the NRF2 signaling molecule, which enables damaged DNA to communicate more effectively with your survival genes. I will recommend NAD, but not for all of these, not for everyone, unless they're going to take all three. And you typically have enough NAD until you reach the age 20. Cool. And you may have enough NRF2 activation. You may have enough NRF1 activation. So if you're really dealing with a pretty strong case of ADD, ADHD, and autism, might not be a bad idea to get an oxidative stress test. Probably one of the labs there. We have labs here that do it, so that you know what you're dealing with. If you, for example, you had a kid and they had super low oxidative stress, they don't need to take NRF2. But you can also get the glutathione tested. So there are things you can do if you have questions. Do I recommend that everybody do that? That's entirely up to the family. Families that have a ton of money, they're probably going to have all these tests done. Families, single moms who are struggling to pay for one bottle, I'm like, try NRF2, see if it helps. So I'm definitely going to recommend that. Why am I going to recommend Axia? It's because it's an easy, simple way to get quercetin, zinc, L-theanine, pine bark, and B vitamins down them. Just before I talked to you guys, I went in and had, I don't know, maybe a half of an Axia. Do I think it made my brain a little bit clearer? Who knows, but I like the stuff, so why not? Vitamin D3, of course, keep those levels up. Omega-3, we've known for 40 years that those children tended to have a better brain with omega-3. The problem was getting it down them. And let me say this, our Omega Plus is the top product out there with my research. We won an international award. The problem is it's 3 big pills. So quite often with children, we have a company here called Nordic. That's from Norway, so you probably have it too. They have a lovely little paste that's tasty. So get the omega-3 down them the way you can get it down. Don't be hard-nosed and say, you got to swallow these 3 big pills. Use that little paste if they'll take it or if they'll drink it.
With our Omega Plus, with LifeVantage, you've got, I've heard some kids just chew on them, like they just suck on them because they have a lime taste because they're not fishy, because they're pure, right? So you can actually just squeeze them. So that's another way.
True. And a lot of times you'll have to make them not overeat them. Their body's deficient and they start eating them. You're like, no. So yes, that's good news for the people who can do it.
Okay.
So basically, as I go along with kids, sometimes I will recommend a vitamin and mineral deficiency test. Because you don't want to do what I call the shotgun approach with a multivitamin. Mm-hmm. If their copper's too high, for example, a multivitamin could drive it higher, driving their zinc even lower. So I think you have to look at it as a path. Let's start lowering oxidative stress. Let's start doing our best to rebuild mitochondria. Let's start supplying with the omega-3 and vitamin D3 what the body needs. And a lot of times, and I'll often say to a mom, they're like, he wouldn't eat anything. I'm like, you're going to put him on this protocol, then you're going to present things on the table. Don't say a word. Put some green beans out there. You may want to put a little something on it, catch up if you have to. Whatever you have to do, let them reach for it. And that works sometimes. All of a sudden, a kid will decide, I'm going to eat that green bean with my fingers, which is fine. We don't care, because their body asked for it. The body was finally balanced enough that it could say to the child, I want those beans there. That's how you eat all the time. You know what I'm talking about? You'll feel like you need to have a salad, or something will look good. That's your cells talking to you. It's your cells talking to you.
That's
okay.
amazing. Thank you so much.
Sure, Candace.
Can I just, while it's ending, I just want to give a shout out for this incredible woman's book. I met this lady online 5 years ago, read the first page, burst into tears, snot tears, found her telephone number. She was staying in Perth, presenting over there. And I just went, everyone in Ireland needs to read your book. It's just, and she went, oh my gosh, dear, I'm Irish. My family all live in Ireland. My son's a pastor in Ireland. We love Ireland. And I just said, well, everyone in Ireland has so much suicide, so much depression. So I said, can I have every book that's left in Australia? Because that's what I do. And she said, there's 20 books left. And I went, right, let me buy them. And that's what you're going to do. These are going to be Christmas presents for people. So jump on. How do people get hold of your book, Jackie?
Well, if enough of you want them, I think I have to have an order of 100 to have them printed in Australia. I'm sure my book company has some connection in New Zealand. Usually they want a commitment of 100 to print in the country, but it saves, if you've got Amazon International Prime, you can get it from Amazon, or you can get the audio. So, yeah, cool. I would love for you to get them some way.
I can tell you about a media company, Ingram Sparks, in Australia, and they have a thing in New Zealand, and they print on the go, so you don't have to have them pre-printed. You just give them the book. It costs you $80, and then they print it as we order them into them. Wonderful. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know tomorrow.
You'll send me that. I'll get in touch with my company to make sure I'm not breaking some type of legal rule. But they're great to work with. So.
Yes, God, we don't want to be getting anyone into trouble. Yeah. But that sounds good, because I like the Audible, because I listen to it when I'm walking. So yes, goodness, that was a lot of your time we've just taken up. But I tell you, it was such an honor to be able to speak with you and to learn so much about the wisdom. And yes, I will be watching this over and over and sending it to so many people, because it's just invaluable information, and to help our children out in this way, it is, as Candace said, it's such a gift to be able to do that. So I'll turn the recording off now. And
no, I'm gonna, one more thing, Julie.
Yes.
Candace, you had the question minimum age for ProBio. I just rechecked the chat box here. I don't know. I think that would depend on when one can take it without getting choked. You can, dissolving it, you're going to mess up the little coating. Yeah.
Okay. But NRF2 can be dissolved, and that's the beauty of that. Yes. And crushed.
Can be dissolved. And can you guys get daily wellness yet or not?
Yes.
That is wonderful. When I had Delta, which, by the way, for those, it was 3 days of 3-day Delta COVID. I was taking my daily wellness every few hours, and it was like I don't know, it made me feel so much better every few hours.
And it's an amazing product. I actually, we were really lucky. over the weekend because we had our global convention. They had a big sale on daily wellness. I think I sold 10 jars of it yesterday in one day. And my children drink this every morning. So it's brilliant. The community is just everything at the moment.
And they mix, my daughter mixes her daily wellness with her prebiotic every morning. And some people then put that in their Axio. So there you go. Okay, Julie, it's back to you for any other questions. Or it was a pleasure and honor to be with you all. And yes, I would love to come. I would love to come back. I was planning to come back the following year to Australia. And then when I go to Australia, I always go to New Zealand. So we'll have to see what happens in the future.